Have you ever been on holiday to one of those places where everywhere you go, shopkeepers leap out of their doorway with arms full of goods that they try to sell to you? You know, ornaments, jewellery, daft toys. They just want to sell you anything. They don't care if you want it or not. Too many salespeople, even in business-to-business selling, think it's their job just to push their goods at the customer, without first finding out what they actually need or want. In this episode, we look at a fundamental skill of asking questions so we can uncover the customer's needs, or to use another word, their requirements. So let's get started on questioning for results. In this episode, we'll start to explore the customer's requirements by developing some questioning techniques. Our objectives for this episode are to identify some different types of questions we can ask, to understand where to use each type of question, to look at some examples of each, and to identify some potential problems that will come up when we start the questioning process. For each type of question, we'll talk about the application and then give an example. But first, let's make sure we know why we're doing this. We've already said to sell anything successfully, we must understand the customer's need. Remember, most of the motivation to buy comes from an emotional need. So our questions need to consider emotional requirements as well as any logical ones. Also remember, we need to understand these requirements at both the personal level and at a business level. So let's think about some of the different questions we might want to ask. First, let's consider questions that will help us gathering some facts. These we'll call fact-finding questions. Fact-finding questions are simple. They're designed to get the customer to talk freely to us about their needs. So you would use these types of questions throughout the conversation. Each question is designed so that the answer will deliver information. So they should begin with words like what or when, how, why or where. See, these questions are almost impossible to answer with a single word, or yes or no. So they're a great way to uncover a wide range of requirements. Here are some examples. Suppose we want to find out who else we might need to see in order to secure a sale. We could ask, will anyone else apart from you, of course, be involved in making a decision to buy? But this would only give us a yes or a no as our answer, and we haven't gathered any facts. Instead, we could ask, who else, apart from you, of course, will be involved in making a decision about buying this product? Now we should get an answer that will give us one or more names of the other people we need to talk to in order to secure the sale. This is vital information. Let's look at some of the other useful words to get hold of key pieces of information. When? When will you need delivery? Where? Where would you like to start the installation? What? What funding has been allocated to this project? Next, let's look at a slightly different type of question. Suppose we've some information from one of our fact-finding questions, but feel there's more to come. We can't just ask the same question, we just get the same answer and look stupid. Instead, we can ask some exploring questions. This time, we want to ask questions that open and broaden the dialogue. For example, one of our previous fact-finding questions was about when. When will you need delivery? The answer might be, in 6 weeks. Now we could expand on this answer by asking a further question. When is the soonest you could accept delivery? This might be a different answer, say 3 weeks, and could be useful in securing an order more quickly, even keeping out a potential competitor for the business. So these open and broaden questions can be very useful in exploring the whole thing on a more broad basis. Now, supposing rather than broadening the conversation, we want to home in on a key point. Here we can use a leading question. This is designed to lead the customer to give you a very specific piece of information. Earlier, in our fact-finding example, we asked who would be involved in the decision-making process. This very open-ended question might have given us a list of names, but it would be more useful to know among this list who would be the one or maybe two people who have the greatest power in making that decision. So after asking who would be involved in the decision-making process, we could then ask, and of these, who would have the final say in going ahead? Now we should narrow down the list to the one name we know we must make contact with. The fourth type of question we call choosing. This is where we give the customer a chance to choose one of two alternatives. The question should still be phrased so the answer is not a simple yes or no here. Instead, we ask the customer to express a preference or make a choice. For example, we've talked about the staged payments and also about a finance lease. Which would be your preferred option? This way we can be sure our final proposal not only meets their requirements, but also suits their preference, making it more likely to secure the business. Finally, closed questions. This is where we want to hear a simple yes or no. It's a great way of checking our understanding about something. For example, did you say you would definitely prefer delivery to the headquarters address? These closed questions can also be used as a way of summarising what's been covered in the conversation so far. For example, we've talked about some of the key requirements being quick delivery, shipped to the headquarters, and with finance lease arrangements. Have I understood you correctly? The answer now is either yes or no, hopefully followed by a correction to any misunderstanding. So, there we have a range of different questions for different situations. You might find it difficult or a bit clumsy at first, but keep practicing and the conversation will flow naturally. Now, some top tips. A common problem when you first do this is that you concentrate so hard on asking the questions, you don't listen to the answers. Don't forget to make notes of all of the answers. And by the way, it's polite to ask permission to take notes as you go if you're in front of the customer. This also demonstrates, by the way, that to the customer you're very seriously interested in their business. Second, let the customer do the talking. The balance should be about 80-20, where the customer is talking 80% of the time. Third, beware compound questions. It's a common mistake, even for experienced salespeople, to ask more than one question in the same sentence before letting the customer answer. The danger here is the customer will usually only answer one of the questions, usually the last one, so you could lose out on a vital piece of information. So, we've looked at the importance of good questioning skills and some different types of questions. In the next episode, we'll look at a simple model for keeping your questioning conversational rather than just a barrage of questions. Before that though, use the worksheet that accompanies this episode. Prepare for a sales call that you will make in the next 48 hours. Identify the areas you want to explore with the customer, and for each write out 5 questions you can use for fact-finding. If you do this for the subjects of emotional and logical needs, timescales, decision-making process and budget, you'll end up with a list of about 25 questions. Once you've done that, move on to the next episode and I'll introduce you to Ted.